Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John shares his supervillain origin story and why he loves sitting in a hot car even though it might be killing him. Meanwhile, I tell an old and pointed joke about religion and tell the story of the automobile club who got busted for helping speeders avoid the cops. Plus a conversation about our idolization of youth, the marginalization of the elderly, and why we all need to be better listeners. Today's episode is not sponsored by Acoustic Guitars. Planning a bonfire party? Let us help ruin it. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Johnny, it's a heat dome of comedy, friendship, and awful talk. Let's talk about that.
It's a heat dome?
Yeah, haven't you heard about the heat dome happening all around us?
No, is that a thing?
Well, yeah, that's the big heat wave over the whole nation.
They're calling it a heat dome?
It's a heat dome.
I think they're just trying not to say Dutch oven, because that's what's happening. We're being Dutch ovened by our own horrible irresponsibility, probably.
I love heat. That's the thing. Like every time I walk outside and the car is so hot and I get in it for a few minutes.
You like that?
It's like heaven.
No, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah, don't you like a nice warm car?
Okay, so I read this the other day. Again, I know we start a lot of conversations about, I read an article.
Look at me.
It's what uneducated people say.
Really?
But I did read an article that said, because it means that you didn't do any real research. You're using somebody else's, well, I'm sure they wouldn't have wrote this if they didn't.
It's better than like saying I was on Twitter.
No, but I read an article and it was talking about basically when you get in a car that's been sitting in the heat, the plastic and the chemicals in the car have been activated. And so basically you need to roll down the windows and let that heat out because that air is like poisoning you.
You know what I hate about these articles right now? It's like whatever it is you enjoy, they find a way.
I know. You're like, that's my favorite moment. You're yeah, because you're getting high off whatever plastics or... Yeah.
I don't know if I believe
They
it.
taking 10 years off your life, John. I'm just saying you're supposed to crack the windows and let that stale air out. And then...
And guys, isn't that just like our lives?
Uh-huh. Some of y'all have been sitting in a hot car of your own sin.
That's right. A Dutch oven of your own...
Making.
Spiritual
Some of y'all have been releasing toxins.
Listen, the whole microplastics thing...
Yeah. That's wild.
It bothers me. And like as a Enneagram 6 should not read that article, and I did.
That's
and
wild.
Then I read more on it, and I'm like, and I went because my water softener went out. I now have a water purification system,
right?
And we use glass bottles now.
Okay.
And it's actually great. I'm not throwing away all these plastic bottles all the time.
You're throwing away glass bottles.
I just use them once, throw them away.
And now I got micro glass inside of me. We call it sand. No, but it is wild because I remember when people started drinking from plastic bottles and they were like, this is good for us. This is better because the water we're drinking has toxins. And now we realize that those bottles sit on the shelves and those pieces of those little tiny microbes from that plastic bottle gets in the water. And now it's in all of our blood. And we don't know what it's doing to us. And
they literally, they're finding like plastic in the depths of the ocean. Like basically integrated into coral reef and stuff. Like it's just like this smooth part as if it grew that way.
I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's like a little art. It's like a little art installation.
It's destroying the planet, but it's whatevs.
Yeah. It's pretty down there.
It's pretty.
Well, we started off on like a wonderful. We're in heat domes and
I like the heat. I like running in the heat.
Do you sweat a lot though?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, but something about, I think maybe it's my weed eater beginnings, my origin stories.
Yeah, it is. That's when you became a supervillain.
It was.
You were, you're weed eater man.
Weed eater man. I do. I don't know.
That would be a nasty weapon to use in a fight, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Just come at somebody with a weed eater.
It's the one time I'm not afraid.
If they get close enough to withstand that first...
Oh, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble because you have this big apparatus that you can't...
To you,
yeah. It's like fighting with a sword versus a gun. Like, if you get close, like a sword's not going to...
Johnny, I don't think you know how swords work.
You got to be able to
keep swinging it.
No, but if they get into... You need a dagger. You need a quick stabbing. That's me with a dagger. That sound happens.
Yeah,
I should never do hand-to-hand combat.
The only time I'm not afraid of a snake is when I have a weed eater.
Oh, I thought you would say when I have my sword.
It's when I have my sword, because I go to battle.
Walk around with swords. This feels very biblical of you.
I
never get afraid of snakes, John, because I read a little book called Acts.
Oh.
And it says I'll take up serpents.
I think that was in the Gospels.
And they shall not harm me.
Well, that's I always find it interesting when the snake handlers get hurt.
Yeah.
Because there's always an out for that, and that is that you just didn't have faith.
Yeah. It's not that you shouldn't have had a snake in a box.
Right. You had enough faith to pick up a snake.
People yelling at it. The snake's all wired by the time it jumps out of that box.
If faith without works is dead.
You think they drug these snakes?
That would be a
They
twist.
kind of give it a Benadryl or two and be like, all right, you're on in 5. They have to wake the snake up.
Wake the snake! That's the name of their youth rallies.
It is. Awake the snake.
I don't know if snake handling churches have youth rallies, Johnny. I don't know. But if they did, we just gave them gold. So
you think they're still out there, snake handling churches?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
That's wild.
I think that people look for the tangible.
Yeah.
And there's a testing there. I can test for the tangible, and that's the name of my new book, Testing for the Tangible.
Testing for the Tangible.
It's right after Wake the Snake.
By John C. Driver. Available where you find them.
John C. Driver.
HarperCollins Publishers.
I don't think HarperCollins would touch that one.
No?
Or it's like People with a Snake.
They shall take up terribly written books, and it shall not harm their publishing company.
Oh, I've harmed some publishing companies.
Have you?
Oh, man.
You've lost some... You've helped people lose some advances?
I will say
we gave him what now?
What you hear if you really sit down with like people high in the industry is that they might. So let's just say a medium-sized publisher publishes 75 books for the year. They really only expect maybe 5 of them to
it's top heavy.
to kill it.
Yeah,
and then it kind of carries because it's subjective. You don't know what's going to take off in the market. It could be a great book.
Yeah,
it could take off 5 years later even. Because you don't know what is like, sometimes just the right story at the right time gets people, pushing towards this idea of this book, and then it grabs momentum. So, you could say that I generally live in the other 70. You know what I'm saying?
You need a tragedy. You need you need to try to climb a mountain and maybe fall off of it.
Ooh. That's a good idea.
You know what I'm saying? And then they're like, this was the last thing he wrote.
Yeah.
And then it becomes so deep. It's like, oh my gosh, it's all about chasing your dreams. And,
oh, wow.
And he did.
It was about climbing the mountain of your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I not still be alive in this dream scenario where and now in a full body cast?
Okay.
Here's John.
From here, he signed his 7-book deal. It's like your arm all extended. They just put a pin. They place a pin in
3 feet away from me. My wife's just moving my arm.
The famous author John Driver blinked 3 times today to signify his new 7-book deal with Pendant Publishing.
We think he's excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well.
Yeah. I hope I don't fall off a mountain, to be clear.
I don't
either. It's all in jest.
Speaking of top heavy, John, podcast is a lot like that in that we're in the whatever percentage we're in. But if somebody wanted to support the show, John, how would they do such a thing?
Well, if they really wanted to move that needle and against...
Help us into that upper echelon.
Let's change the industry from the inside out.
Yes.
They would go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Yeah, you can click on that upper right-hand column. There's a button that says support the show. Bottom right-hand, if you want to send us a note, hello@talkaboutthatpodcast.com is the email address. If you just want to do it directly. We've gotten quite a few fun notes.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all that.
We really do.
It means a lot to us.
Are you a little surprised every time somebody's like, man, I love the show?
It happens at my comedy shows now where people are like, I've listened to every episode, or they say they'll ask me specific questions about certain episodes. And I'll be like, oh, wow, this person's a total nerd.
I've always enjoyed our conversations. It's one of those things that I don't trust myself enough other people will enjoy what I enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm always a little surprised if I get to write a book. Every time. I told someone that yesterday. It's always a big deal. And you told me yesterday, it's always a big deal when you get to tell jokes. Mm-hmm. Someone brings you in and you get to feed your family by telling jokes,
Yeah. I was talking with another comedian about it, and I was like, it feels like a bank heist. It still feels wrong.
Yeah.
It feels like, are they? They were happy.
Right.
They happily handed me, okay.
You still have, your wife has a car running just in case.
Yeah, you floor it and get out of there.
Once you have
before they change their mind.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I'm going to Casa Grande, Arizona.
Ooh, the big house.
This Sunday. Oh, no, Friday. This Friday. So this will come out, whatever. And then, if you're near Phoenix area, Casa Grande, Arizona, at Crossroads Church.
Nice.
Big ticketed show. And, it's going to be fun. They're very excited.
What day is that?
It's the 28th.
What day of the week is that?
January, Friday the 28th.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, Friday the 28th. You know, that's a...
No, wait. Maybe it's Saturday. Is Saturday the 28th? I don't even know what day it is. I think it's the 28th. I think Saturday's the 28th.
Fun. All the Arizona peeps. I'm sure it's nice and cool out there right now.
It is 1,000 degrees, but as you know, John, it's a dry heat. And so that's okay. They're in the heat box. What is it called?
Heat dome.
The heat dome.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. It sounds like somebody's early name for a microwave. I call it a heat dome.
This lets me know you're not reading all the news articles. John, you need to get off of social media because there's no way you should.
What do I need to be doing? Reading more depressing news like you?
Look what it's done to me. I am completely up to speed with everything and crippled with anxiety.
You're so upbeat. That's my favorite thing about you.
You know, and on that note, Johnny.
Yes.
You know what else is upbeat?
What's that?
Man, endless products from our sponsors and how they improve the lives of our listeners.
We need more products.
Yeah. So let's take a moment and hear what they have to offer. I hope it was good.
I do too. I really do. I've got my fingers crossed.
I really promoted it. You know, promoting things blindly right now.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we want people to do for our show. To be honest with you,
we want to promote things blindly for money. That feels like a very wise thing to do.
That's right.
I'm sure they'll do the right thing.
Yeah. Hey, Johnny, do you know what else?
What?
It's that time.
Oh, okay.
It's time for Quote of the Week.
Quote of the Week.
It's a little segment I like to call They Talked About That. Derek Kidner was a British theologian, died, I think, in like 2008, Anglican priest. But I thought this was interesting.
Yeah.
We've discussed some of this concept before, but he was an Old Testament scholar, theologian.
Not from the Old Testament.
No, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, he would really hang on.
Wow, that guy. Man. What vitamins was he taking?
He said, to idolize the state of youth and to dread the loss of it is disastrous. It spoils the gift even while we have it. To idolize the state of youth and to dread the loss of it is disastrous because it spoils the gift we have, or the gift even while we have it.
This is because I turned 50, isn't it? That's why you're thinking
Johnny,
of
I think that it's time for us to talk about it. This elephant in the room. This old elephant.
No, that's good. Yeah, I've never heard that one before.
I think that there is an idolization of youth. And I think that's been historically true. I mean, think about Cortez and everyone looking for the fountain of youth. And I mean, this immortality. I think in the past it was like they were seeking immortality. And I think today the generations are more seeking truthfully a younger version of themselves, or a younger experience. It's not just about living forever. It's about living like that.
And how much of you do you think it is that we really idolize youth versus people are afraid of aging because they know that we marginalize old people?
Right.
So it's both, right? It's that we think of young and beautiful and vibrant as we make an idol of that, but also we're so afraid of, because we know, when you get old, they just go park you in a nursing home, or your opinions don't matter anymore because they just go, okay, boomer, and they just, whatever. Yeah. Whenever they want to just forget about you or make your opinion not matter, you can just be like, that's just some old man.
Right.
He's just some old man shouting at the clouds.
I talk to Sadie about that sometimes about, and our generation as much as hers, it's not like just hers. I think ours may be worse. X may be worse at it than even Z or the millennials. But there is we have reversed what our ancestors did completely now. Because like you said, it's not just their opinions don't matter. It's often a disdain for the thought processes of someone who's ahead of us. And I think to the younger generation's defense, there are times that just being old doesn't make you honorable and wise. Mm-hmm. I think we have to realize that. Experience itself, doesn't make you honorable, noble, wise, just being old. I mean, you can still be someone, and we've seen that a little bit, I think, lately, that there are those who are not speaking wisdom out of their age. But there are a lot who are, that we don't stop to listen to.
Yeah. We lump all the voices into one.
Right.
Because it's just like, oh, he's old. His opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to a podcast about Love Canal. Do you know about Love Canal?
No.
So Love Canal was this neighborhood that was planted in, it was the 1920s by this basic grifter. He wanted to build this little canal in, where was the city? It was in Niagara Falls, New York.
Okay.
So basically, to get around the Niagara River, he wanted to build this area where it was going to have to be 5 miles of canal. He finished the first mile and realized this is a non-starter. He quits. 30 years later, this chemical company starts using it as a dumping ground.
Oh, wow.
So by the 1940s, this chemical company was using it as just barrels and barrels of just different sludge that they're throwing in this open ditch. Then it becomes a landfill. And then 20 years later, the city bought the land and built a school, a park, and then an outlying neighborhood was planted there. And guess what happened?
Well, yeah.
The pollutants seeped into the thing and people started getting sick. And the thing is, there were people sounding the alarms who knew, I remember Love Canal was this planned neighborhood. Now it's, Niagara Falls, New York, but it's a town, it's a little township in here. But I remember this. Nobody would listen. I know what's going on. And so sure enough, the chemical company tried to disavow it all and they blamed the city. The city didn't take responsibility. And it took years. It literally took these housewives who were just trying to protect their family and get out. Because they were trapped in their homes and the homes became worthless.
Sure they did.
And it took years. And literally, it laid the groundwork. These women who became these activists overnight, because they had to, they laid the groundwork for what's the current EPA laws.
Wow.
And it's all from this guy who just was let's build this thing. And then that failed. And then this chemical company's we got to open a hole in the ground. Just put this barrels of stuff there. And nobody will ever be the wiser. But it's nobody wants to listen. But the amazing thing to me was, 20, 30 years go by, and literally the people that moved in, they had no idea of what had happened just decades ago. That's how quickly we forget things. And that's what I was thinking when you said that about we discount the opinions of older people. It's why we're doomed to repeat history. Yeah. Because we just stop listening to each other.
I think the modern age does make it where 10 years ago now is the equivalent of 50 years ago for our grandparents. Yeah, because time moves faster because of tech. You think about sometimes you'll do the this day in history.
Yeah.
And when we get into the 2000s, you'll say this day this piece of technology or the iPod or whatever.
Right.
And I will always guess it earlier than it was.
Yeah.
In my mind, you'll go, it's 2005, and I'll go 2005.
Yeah, 2005 feels like yesterday.
Right. Because that doesn't feel that long ago, but it's like the time continues.
When I think of 10 years ago, I think of the 1990s.
Right.
And it's 2024.
Well, that's what Laura always says that. You'll see someone and go, 30 years ago, and you think you're talking about
it's wild.
The 60s or whatever. That was the 90s. Yeah. That's where we were. And I just think that we now plus there's two other parts to this. It's the influx of information and technology, and then I think also to the older generations, and I'm not belittling, but I think the older generation is also they've been targeted by that technology and that especially misinformation.
Yeah.
Because think about how I will see things that my 15-year-old daughter is doing, and I'll go, I'm intimidated by how that app works or how that works.
Right, sure.
How do I get into that stream to be a part of what I'm supposed to do to be a part of society, what it means today? Imagine what our parents or their grandparents feel like in that. Holding these things that we're all a little confused by at times. There is something on my iPhone today that's over my head, right? If I really wanted to use everything about it. So use it to your advantage. But if you felt like I have to do all of it, I have to learn all of it, and then, just the money-making ability to scam people, to call them and tell them that, hey, someone's in jail, we need your money to bail them out, it's your nephew, whatever. They can find all the information about you and do it. This stuff's happening all the time. So I think that's part of the reason is they've been really targeted. I think more than all the other generations, and so it's easy to go, well, they don't know what they're talking about. It's not true. I just think that sometimes they're just the target.
It's just a different language. It's
exactly.
It's a totally different set of rules now we're living by. So I think it's an interesting thing. Try to strike that balance between not making an idol of youth, and we've talked before about how the older generation tend to nostalgia is almost a religion. So that's the other side of it, is where like the good old days becomes this prison that you live in, and you've imagined a mythology about, you know, the world as it was, or America as it was, that wasn't even real. It's just something that like you've beaver cleavered yourself into some weird, you know, 50s. So that's a weird trap to fall into as well. But then the other side is just that we just completely marginalize, you know, we make an idol of youth. So it's like you got to find that balance in between.
Yeah, and I like that idea that he says that it spoils the gift even while we have it. Meaning, like, one, if you only look backwards, you never remember what's behind you. It's either remembered better or remembered worse than it actually was. I don't think there's a chance you can go completely accurate, because the thing about youth, and I study this a lot right now, being the father of a teenager, and my therapist says this, like, even between 18 and 25, there's so much brain development still happening, right? And he calls his 18 to 22-year-olds his zealots. They're the ones, and I remember that age. You met me in that age, right?
Yeah.
So as a zealot, like, I mean, I can do anything. I know everything. I try anything, right? And it's part of, I think, the way God makes us to sort of launch, right?
Yeah.
If you really sit around, and I think this younger generation kind of gets crippled by the anxiety of this, they know way more than we knew about what could go wrong, what is going wrong.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So they struggle to launch a little bit out there. But for our world, we're like, are you kidding? Give me my car keys. Who needs a seatbelt, right? We just go.
Yeah.
But then by like 23, 24, you start kind of waking up like, oh, you know, maybe I was a little over. You start dialing back a little bit.
Course correct.
But we idolize that state.
Yeah.
We idolize those states of when you know the least, really, in your life. I will say that, and again, I don't mind saying that as a dad. There are times when Sadie will tell me what her friends thought about the situation, and I will, not in a mean way, but I will just go, you recognize your friends don't know anything about this topic. They haven't lived it. They haven't studied it. They haven't experienced it. They literally are reacting based upon whatever they've heard online or whatever feels a certain way in the moment. And almost every time, it's not accurate or correct. But there's something in youth that doesn't want to take your parents or your grandparents who go, but that thing you're experiencing, I went through it 12 times.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, but it's different now. You're like, well, I know it's different now. But the experiences, the feelings, or the principles are actually still pretty much the same on this. You know, like, it'll always come out the same way. So I don't know. I don't want to be called idolizing. What was the other quote we said one time? It's not how old you are, it's how you are old. Right? So there's a thought process.
If it's too loud, you're too old. I think it's different.
It's very different, yeah.
Yeah,
but
those are different quotes.
I don't want to spoil the gift, Johnny, because here's the thing, and you said to me yesterday.
You want to gift the spoils. Wait.
You said somebody older told you, like, enjoy your 50s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you'll never feel better than you feel right now.
Right.
But this doesn't feel like you, wherever you are, unless you're in your 20s, it doesn't feel like youth. But I'm starting to go, actually, in my 40s, like, this is still youthful compared to what my 80s will feel like. I
don't want you to ever say 50s to me ever again.
Johnny.
Don't say enjoy your, like, you can say I'm 50, but don't say you're in your 50s. That's... Oh my gosh, John.
No. Listen,
that literally hurt my feelings.
You are barely into like the second third of the second third of your life. So it's fine. Like maybe not even halfway through the second third. You're good, man.
I really hope that you're right. Anyway, John. All right, it's time for my segment. Johnny, it's Johnny's old joke of the week. Oh. And we have the theme music?
We do.
Okay, here we go. Every time.
Slide whistles.
This is one of my favorite jokes, and I thought it's a fun one that it's kind of a talker. So it's one of those ones where I think there's a little lesson in it. The person who came up with this joke is a comedian, probably one of the original, what I would call an alternative comedian in the 80s, named Emo Phillips. And this actually won the best joke about religion in history from Reader's Digest.
Oh, wow.
So Reader's Digest did like a whole, and it literally was called The Best Joke About Religion. So this is Emo Phillips. I want to see what you think of it. And you may have heard this before, but this is Emo Phillips. I'm not going to read it in his voice because he has a very strange voice.
Okay.
Once I saw this guy on a bridge about to jump, I said, "Don't do it." He said, nobody loves me. I said, God loves you. Do you believe in God? He said, yes. I said, are you a Christian or a Jew? He said, a Christian. I said, me too. Protestant or Catholic? He said, Protestant. I said, me too. What franchise? He said, Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist? He said, Northern Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist or Northern Liberal Baptist? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region or Northern Conservative Baptist Eastern region? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes region. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1879 or Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region Council of 1912? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Region of 1912. I said, die, heretic, and I pushed him off the bridge.
I knew it was going. I could tell.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great joke.
It's just so good, this idea. And we've talked about it before about the thing of, there's the old famous graph or a chart where it's a still comic cell of somebody doing a Sunday school class, and it's the timeline of religion history. You know, all the way from back to God frees the children of Israel, all of it, the writing of the Bible, and it's all written on this chart. And then and the guy's pointing to it, and the caption says, and right here's where our church came along and got it right.
Right.
And we don't really believe that, but we sort of believe that. Yeah. We kind of believe like we're doing it the right way, and everybody else is doing it the wrong way. And the truth is, probably the biggest thing that we're going to say in heaven is, oh, wow. Like, we're probably going to be surprised by a lot of the things that we really, really focused on that either were not important or we were wrong about. And we just hope that God's grace covers it. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking with someone yesterday and telling them about our church, because it could be somebody who would come around. And I found myself talking about community, talking about our story, talking about vulnerability and, trying to be genuine and authentic and where we measure spirituality here. And it's a great conversation. And one of the things I inserted was like, one of the things we do is Lectio 365 app, which is, we're not a liturgical church, but we do have some liturgy that now we live because we realize there's whole traditions and whole ways of thinking that, from our upbringing, we just neglected and never knew about that bring a richness. And I couldn't tell if it was a look on their face, but like there's always that one, like everything I'd said made sense.
Yeah.
But that may have been the first time they'd heard that.
Right. From
their viewpoint or from their background of, like to your point, there's always that one thing. And it's not like it's okay to say that's not for me or I don't believe that's okay. Like it's okay to have
and it's okay to find a church that fits your personality. Yeah. Like people that go like, if you're a church hopper or a church shopper, like that's just shallow and it's consumer mindset. I think it's okay to find a church that fits like your ideals and say like, well, this has a great program for my kids. And so I've stayed longer than I might have. Like, right. I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. But I do think to the point of the joke is it's like, and we're seeing it with conservatism, we're seeing it with liberalism, we're seeing it in politics, where you have this ever narrowing definition of what it means to be a pure X, whatever that is. Right. And for this, it would be what's a real Christian? Well, are you this council? Are you this council? Yep. Are you a 1611 King James only?
Right.
Bible believing, And then when you get to that one thing that you would split hairs over, or you would be like, well, you're this heretic. Like, I just think, man, it's a big table. Yeah. And I really, and you know what? That's my hope too. It's more than just a belief. It's rooted in hope. I really hope it's a big table because none of us deserve to be at the table.
Yep.
And so we got to hope for a big table.
Listen, man, I love it. The hope, my definition of hope is believing in and looking for the good that is to come. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think that particular hope you're speaking of is a good we can find behind us in the gospel as well, that we can now say, I'm looking for that in my future. It's a thing that Jesus talks about. And you're exactly right. This is what's divided the church for centuries. Again, 17th century, Lutheran theologian, you made fun of me last week for, I think, Rupertus Meldenius.
Yes.
In essentials, unity. In doubtful things, liberty. In all things, love. And the question there is, what's the essential?
Right.
And when your essential is down to the year of your counsel,
right,
or
the length of your hair, or the whatever this thing that you have majored on that is probably a minor, but you've majored on it, it gets real tricky.
Well,
then we start pointing fingers at each other, like this guy's not a pure thing,
Right.
because I've now just made it some weird Byzantine complicated thing that they have to go through, the maze of things I have to get to be like Christ. And man, to me, it's I'm trying to be a door holder these days.
Well,
but
you remember in the Bible where the disciples came across someone who was casting out demons in Jesus' name, and they told him to stop. And they went and told Jesus. They tattled, and they thought Jesus would be proud.
yeah,
They were like, we found this guy, and we're like, well, you can't do that. You're not a part of us. He's not even met Jesus that we know of. And Jesus rebuked them. He was like, don't do that. Like, if they're either for us or they're against us, like, you're acting like that. This, like you said, this table is so super small.
yeah.
But if so it's interesting.
That's
And
one of the things I grew up with that I feel like has been burned away, which is the need to police everybody.
Right.
You know?
Oh yeah.
And the laying awake at night thinking that someone out there is breaking the rules, whatever rules I have in my head, like it would really bother me. The idea that I'm doing it, and I'm using myself as the standard here without meaning to, but I figured it out. Who's not got it right? And then letting that dictate your mood, that's a really weird way to live.
It is. There was a whole era there in the Christian circle, especially I think mid to late 90s and through the early 2000s, where you would see a lot of websites or email addresses that had the term watchdog in them.
Yeah.
People who felt like that their calling was to be the watchdog. And I believe in reformers. I do. And there are those who see and point out what's difficult in that moment and hold to the original standards of the faith. I mean, there's a place for that, but it became, like you said...
Yeah, it's a full-time job. It's a cottage industry to go around and say they're doing it wrong and we're doing it right. And I don't know, man. I think that it's a better witness to just do the right thing and let the fruit of that be shown to the world, right? If you're doing it right, your community will be changed.
Yep.
And then there'll be fruit from that and it'll be visible.
Well, and not to be political, but... right now, I think you could say that there's an outcry a little bit of what are we actually doing in Congress in particular, besides just trying to tear down the other side.
Yeah.
If you're in charge, especially you have the ability to do that. If you have the
It's just
majority.
trying to score points against them.
And I read an article where, I won't say which party, but a person of their own party, he stood up and said, because it's time now to campaign, right, to get reelected in the House of Representatives. And he was like, can you all tell me, I'm going to sit here and listen, one thing we did that I can campaign on? One. Right. Can anyone tell me one thing in charge that we did? And he was very upset about it because he recognized I have to now go face the voters of my state.
Yeah.
And we've spent our time here really jockeying around for power more than we have. And I'm not saying the issues aren't important that they're talking about. I'm just saying it's...
And I think, to the point about the church, doctrine is important.
Yep.
What we believe about God is important. The creeds are important. But making your entire personality finding fault with some tiny thing that you differ on this person with... be it this person wears makeup and everybody knows you're not supposed to, like, I really believe that that's a dangerous place to be as far as like just your mental health.
Yeah.
Never mind spiritual health. Just like making yourself the standard in a way by saying like, I have dotted every I and crossed every T and therefore I'm God's favorite. Like it's a weird way to live. And I feel like I did live that way for a part of my life. And I don't know. I've laid it down now, John.
Well, when you were doing that, I was sitting up at night thinking about, why is he doing that?
Right. John was judging me. He was like, Johnny is so judgmental. God. I wish he could be more like me.
Yeah. And eventually you became more like me. Everything's okay.
We did. Well, you prayed for me and it meant a lot. John, let's go back.
Let's do it.
This week in history, we call it Talk About Then. I did not know this story, and I don't know that you knew it. You're a big U.S. history guy. But this one blew my mind. Did you know that, now again, there's other stories. I dug into this one a little bit on Wikipedia to see like other things other than just what This Week in History showed me on the website that I pulled these from. And didn't find a lot of other answers, but this is what it says. June 27, 1954, the CIA director overthrew the democratically elected government of Guatemala to protect the profits of a company that he was on the board of directors of. So this is basically a privately funded coup.
Wow.
This is in the height of every communist country is going to just the wave of communism is going to cause whatever.
It's McCarthyism.
Right. And just the fear of that taking hold in every other country, and especially like Central American countries, like the wave of that could affect American politics. There was the real fear of that, and possibly it could have come to fruition. But the Guatemalan Revolution, 1944 through 54, ended on June 27, 1954, when a democratically elected Guatemalan president is overthrown by a CIA covert operation and a military dictator is installed. The Guatemalan Revolution, a popular uprising that began in 44, ended authoritarian rule and brought to power Guatemala's first democratically elected president. The new president instituted voting rights, a minimum wage, land reforms, which granted land to the peasants. This hurt the profits of the United Fruit Company, which benefited from the exploitative labor practices in Guatemala. United Fruit then began lobbying the U.S. to overthrow the new Guatemalan government. So this is a private company being like, hey, man, we're paying these people real wages now.
Right.
And this is a bummer. Well, that's one thing. But the CIA, commanded by Alan Dulles, who was on the United Fruit Board of Directors, began covert operations that overthrew their government. Dulles' brother, John Foster Dulles, the U.S. Secretary of State, had also been a lawyer for United Fruit. The former CEO of United Fruit, Thomas Dudley Cabot, was the Director of International Security Affairs in the State Department. So we had all these ties to this weird company, and so it benefited them financially. And so you can say whatever political motives were behind it, too. And the Red Scare obviously played into it. And communism was a threat. Obviously, you had China and Russia becoming allied and all that. All those things were happening. And then the Cuban Missile Crisis is right around the corner, which also Dulles was involved with, by the way. Yeah. He was around for that, too. The Bay of Pigs disaster, like that was Dulles. He was involved in that. So this was his first swing of the bat, though, of saying, like, we got to protect this company because I'm on the board and they're losing their shirts because we can't exploit the labor there. So they installed this dictator who went on to, like, for decades, like there's people who commented on this on the Reddit thread that I found about this, who said that for years after this, the new dictators that were installed were torturing people. It became, authoritarian rule again.
Wow.
And this is U.S. We're supposed to be the good guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild to think that about our government. But and some of the things that I read said that this was not necessarily evil, but just stupid. Like, we thought what we were doing would also be good in the long run.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that in government, is not seeing the unintended consequences of things. Like, well, this is a guy that's not helping. We'll reinstall this guy. And then, like, you don't see the ripple effect 30 years later now. Yeah. The casualties, the human life, that's affected. Anyway, that's a bummer. But you'd never heard that story, right? United Fruit Company.
No, I don't think I knew that story.
It's wild.
Yeah.
John, this week, 1905, the Automobile Association, AA, which I assume later went on to be AAA. I didn't read further about this, but I'm assuming this is what went on to become AAA, because AA became Alcoholics Anonymous. Right. Is founded to help British motorists avoid police and speed traps. Okay. So that was its original. This was in response to the Motor Car Act 1903, which introduced new penalties for breaking the speed limit. AA patrolmen would warn drivers displaying an AA badge of upcoming speed traps. So I guess they just stand on that. I don't know what they would do. In 1910, this was ruled illegal as it obstructed an officer in the course of his duty to catch speeders.
It took that many years?
I guess. The AA patrolman would then only wave to drivers if the road was clear and not wave if a speed trap was ahead.
Which is the same thing.
As they could not be prosecuted for not signaling drivers. That's great. They found a little loophole.
That's great. I didn't do anything. I just stood here.
I only signal if it's not. Okay, that's great. AA also erected roadside danger and warning signs and managed road signage until responsibility was passed to local authorities in the early 1930s. Now, this was in Britain, I assume. So, but yeah, the AA.
If I was an AA,
we could use. Now we have all the little. You get the little signals on your Maps app where it says like
Police
speed
ahead.
Yeah, speed check ahead or whatever.
Yeah, I do. If I was an AA officer in Britain, the number one thing I would yell to passersby, you're on the wrong side of the road.
Right.
Like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you? You're going the wrong way. How does he know where we're going?
How does he know?
John, finally, and this is a timely one.
Oh.
Because of the recent vanquishment and triumph of the University of Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, fresh off a national championship
in college baseball, winning the World Series yesterday. Abner Doubleday was born this week, 1819. He invented baseball, but did you also know that he invented cable cars and also fired the first Union shot of the Civil War.
What?
Yeah. So here's the story. American Union soldier Abner Doubleday. He's credited with inventing baseball, although he never claimed so, and modern research indicates similar games were played before he was born, so that's a little bit tricky. He aimed the cannon that fired the first shot at the Confederacy after it fired on Fort Sumter at the start of the American Civil War.
So he was
the retaliatory shot. Yeah. But he fired the first shot for the Union.
Wow.
He also patented the cable car railway that runs in San Francisco. This guy, you talk about a renaissance man.
Yeah, he had a full life.
Why can't you do more?
I don't know.
What are you doing with your life? You ever read about some guy like this and you go, he did what?
I tried to start a civil war. It didn't take.
I know. Well, you'll get there.
Yeah, we got to keep trying.
It's like when you read about Dolly Parton wrote, I Will Always Love You and Jolene in the same day.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Or Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky overnight.
Yeah, over a weekend.
Right.
Yeah, he was just like, I'm going to make myself a star. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do it.
I did start thinking, because I'm writing a screenplay, I was like, I bet that made the dialogue simpler. Because he's just like, I'm just getting this down.
When he was kind of playing himself, he's playing this guy that's just from Philadelphia, who's just a down on his luck guy, and that's who he was.
So as I'm writing right now, I'm thinking, write like Sylvester, write like Sly. That's my, like just simple.
You are a Sly author. If you want to learn more about John's books, where would they go, John?
They can go to johndriver.com if they want. There's not a lot.
Why would they not want?
I don't know.
They're listening to this.
Are they, though? I have a lot of self-doubt. Yeah, I'm writing stuff. You know what? I've worked with a lot of amazing authors and their stories. Man, you can go read about Reggie Dabbs and his story. And you can read about Pat Bradley, a great book I wrote, who runs Crisis Aid International. Amazing book. You can find on my website there.
Yeah, you've collaborated with some awesome people. And then your personal books are great.
Well, thank you, John.
But, I mean, your collaborative books are great, too. You're kind of, you're getting other people's stories out there, John.
I should have promoted The Ultimate Guide for the Avid Indoorsman for Father's Day, because that's a Father's Day bathroom book.
It's not too late, though, to get it for next Father's Day.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or for that Christmas stocking stuffer.
Absolutely. You can find it usually pretty cheap, Johnny, which you know what that means. I don't know. I don't think it's good.
It's not
though.
great.
Yeah.
It's not great when it's super cheap.
I think it was like for 43 cents on
closeout sale.
ChristianBook.com.
Yeah, but come on. That doesn't mean anything.
Fine.
Listen.
It's
the value of the dollar is going up.
Oh,
So.
boy. 43 cents goes a long ways.
It does.
Like a single French fry.
I have new tour dates going up every day on my website, JonnieW.com, JONNIEW.com. Follow me on the old socials, and I put up a couple of new clips a week, and a lot of new things are going up there.
Johnny Socials, guys. It's a fun ride.
It is a fun ride.
Yeah, I mean, like it's...
I'm enjoying it. It's weird. I fight against it, and we talk about the dangers of social media, but it's been cool to connect with people at the shows that have followed me on social media. So that's the good side.
Yeah.
Is that I'm able to pay for gasoline in my car.
And I'm here to offset. So for every bit that you're active on social media, I'm being inactive. And then together, we're balanced and healthy.
I'm an old man. You shout at the clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And together...
We're
an old man shouting at the clouds.
Yes.
Yeah, guys, you should check out talkaboutthatpodcast.com. As we already said, there's all kinds of archived episodes. Leave a review. Leave a review, man, and make it a 5-star.
If you could.
Yeah. No, you can. You can. There's no,
dig deep.
Maybe you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's right.
I was in a restaurant the other day, and they said, the guy came over, and he said, it was an Asian restaurant. Downtown. We've eaten that before. Hawkers.
Oh, it's good.
With an H-A-W-K. It sounds Hawkers. But you go, so they have amazing Korean wings, and we're eating the wings, and the guy comes over to him, and he goes, he's got his little name tag on. He hands me a card. It's got his name on it and his little Insta. He said, if you go leave a Google review for the restaurant right now and mention my name, I will bring you a free dessert.
Really?
So I went, right away, sir.
Yeah.
Amazing wings, blah, blah, blah. And he brought me these, they have these donuts there, John.
Oh, no.
These Asian donuts.
Yeah.
And they're warm. They're in a bag. And the bag is already you can see it's becoming see-through. It's got the transparent window.
That's the good
That's when you know it's a donut.
It's like the good fat in your system. This is the good grease.
And I tell you, it's one of the best things I've ever had. So that review.
So powdered sugar in the bag?
Yeah, powdered sugar. He bought my allegiance, but I would have left a good review had I thought to anyway, because I do love those wings. They're my favorite thing ever. Korean twice fried wings. They don't just fry them once, John.
Not just once.
They dip them in batter again and go, you know what? Here's another
This needs
crunch.
another.
Double crunch.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I
You're
had
like,
them
is there
one day.
chicken in here? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't matter. This could be shoe leather. No, but they're delicious. But anyway, not a sponsor, but just goes to show you, I would have written that review, but that extra reminder from my waiter, I think his name was Mikkel. Mikkel was like, hey, how about some free donuts? We don't have free donuts for you, but...
Well, some would say that the 45 minutes you just listened was the free donut.
That's your free donut.
Right.
It's delicious. It's not fattening at all.
No. I mean...
I don't think there's anyone could be.
We struggle with that.
Yeah, but it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out, man. Leave a review and pretend that you just had a
Pretend I
delicious...
slipped you a card over and said, hey, what about that?
Hey, come on, what do you say? Yeah.
Hey, now.
It means a lot to us when you do it. Send us a message as well. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about or what you're interested in or what you've enjoyed so far. Hey, guys, thanks for spending the time with us. Let's do it again next week on
Talk about that.